Hello, everybody. Welcome to Comics and Coffee, starting your day out the nerdy way. I am Bobby Shortle, and I'm here with Nikki Alfaro.
Long time no see, guys.
Yeah, it's been a while. Wait, I'm tweeting that we're live. Boom. All right.
Is it
Up
in
there
a
now.
different language this time?
No, YouTube will post in a different language.
Okay.
I'll always post in English. YouTube is for our international audience. I'm not, I'm, it was, when I did it by myself 2 weeks ago, it was Spanish again. So, but it's been Spanish, I think Chinese, right? Or Japanese. We said it was Japanese and Arabic have been the three languages that it's been in so far. So we'll see what we get this time. I look to see how you could change it. I have no idea. I think it's just some sort of weird glitch that happens with it. Um, and YouTube doesn't have notoriously great customer service when it comes to actually like solving singular problems like that. But yeah, so we're here, Comics and Coffee. We got a few things to talk about today. We've got Supergirl 6 minute kind of trailer season one preview that they put up during the CBS upfronts. Uh, I also watched Nikki. I don't know if you got a chance to watch it or not. The Legends of Tomorrow.
I
Uh,
definitely watched it. It was the first thing I did when I got home yesterday.
okay, so we'll talk about that as well. And there are some more than likely Spider-Man casting news that came out yesterday as well, which we can mention. Um, so we'll get to all of that. But Nikki, I mean, it's been a couple weeks. How have you been doing?
Pretty good, pretty busy. I'm working full time at the Silver Snail, so yay.
That's awesome.
Um, and then still working 1 day a week at the dollar store I work at. And then I just put up the first part of my interview with Jeremy um, Whitley's For Princeless. Yeah, so yeah. I can word, I swear. And it's weird because I haven't seen Stephanie in a while, and I usually blame it on Steph. I'm
Hmm.
just like, I've been hanging out with her too much. Can't word.
You can always blame Stephanie. It's all right. I always do, so it's okay. Um, so yeah, before we get to Supergirl, like yeah, people should check out all the Princess stuff that's going up. It's all been great so far. And it's some really cool stuff up on talkingcomicbooks.com. Uh, have you read any books lately that you've really loved, Nikki? It's been a few weeks, so
Um, Captain Marvel 15 made me like cry on the subway. That was the most
okay.
notable. Um, I've really liked Secret Wars this week. I'm still quite lost, but it's like the fun kind of lost that I remember from when I was a kid and I'd pick up any comic books that I could get and be in the middle of the storyline.
Mm.
So I guess I'm really liking it because it's reminding me of that. So it's like good nostalgia instead of
Yeah, I mean the
a
second
lot
issue
of
for
what
me,
Converse was.
the second issue for me is definitely a lot more interesting, and like you said, more. For me, the first issue was much more of the not fun kind of Lost, and this issue is for me the more interesting, fun version of that. Just like you said, stuff that I want to know about, and stuff that I think are cool, big ideas that can be talked about. Which I feel like the first issue for me was lacking in some places. But yeah. So have you read Thor yet?
Yes.
Yes. We're not going to spoil it. Don't worry, people who are listening. If you haven't read it yet. But without spoiling who it was, how did you feel about the reveal, Nikki?
You know what? I need to read it all again. I really liked the reveal, um, but I feel like I want to like go back and see if I can find more hints about it. Um, because I wasn't one of those people who was trying to guess who Thor was. I was just kind
Hmm.
of along for the ride. So, yeah.
Interesting. I thought well, to be fair, I got spoiled on it by some story on some website where you got somebody posted an article to Facebook, and it brings up like the article preview in it, and the
Uh,
title of the article didn't say who it was, but
but the
the picture that
previews.
went along with it was just a picture of who it was.
Uh, oh no.
Yeah, so I
Oh
was upset about
man.
that because there's no way I could. There's like literally no way I could have avoided it, and Facebook is not usually a place where I have to worry about, because it's all people I can kind of know in real life, So,
Yeah.
and most people I know in real life, except for obviously the people who do the show and stuff like that, like they don't really talk about comics on Facebook. That's not like a usual topic of conversation. So usually I'm safe when I'm on there, and it just somebody put up a story, and it was a shame because the moment of the reveal in the issue I think is really good,
Yeah.
and it can be really powerful, and it was still powerful, but knowing who it was dampened that a little bit for me. I got cheated out of that moment to be able to kind of discover it with everyone else, which is partly Marvel's fault because they published it officially the day before the book came out, which is something I love that comic book companies do when they do that. But enough about that stuff. Let's talk about some awesome stuff. So we knew Supergirl was coming, right? Greg Berlanti, who executive produces Arrow and Flash and Legends of Tomorrow, which we'll also talk about. For CBS, Melissa Benoist is starring as Supergirl, and Calista Flockhart as Cat Grant. And we knew it was coming. I didn't expect. I don't know why I didn't expect it, because last year around this time we got the Flash thing. The same kind of deal for the Flash. But I get, and a lot of trailers for new shows come out around now, but for some reason I just wasn't expecting to see anything from it for a while. But we got 6 minutes of Supergirl, and I want to know, Nikki, what did you think?
I loved it. I've been like a Superman family fan since I got into comics, and this is exactly the kind of tone that I've come to expect and really crave from any kind of incarnation related to Superman and Supergirl, and it's great. It's all the quirkiness and lightheartedness of the Flash um, put into a Supergirl show, and it's everything that it looks like it's everything that I could have wanted.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I've watched it I think 3 times now. The first time I watched it, I was at work. I was doing a shoot, and I was there all day, and I was just kind of between like things I had to do. I was watching it on my phone, and so I didn't really get the full experience because I stopped it a couple times. I had to kind of like, I couldn't hear it for a little bit. So when I got home, I watched it again, and then actually I watched it with my wife last night because um, she is a big Glee fan, and Melissa Benoist is from Glee, so she wanted to see like what she was like as that character. So I've watched it 3 times now, and I have to say I really do love it. I think that there are some visual issues as far as effects go, but the show doesn't come out till September, so there's plenty of time to tweak and fix and kind of perfect what their kind of visual effects acumen is going to be for that show. It's going to be, I think, the first time really that we've seen a show where the main character flies this much as a kind of our main power. So I think they're going to find their rhythm and their look. It might take a while, but I'm not really worried about that part of it. The part I did love was the tone, the feeling, the message of the show seems to be very, very focused on hope and on heroism, and the central thing,
And
which
color palette.
and color palette, yeah, very bright, very blue, very red, very gold, which I love. And what I love about it is that it really seems like it's serving the central thing about Superman, which I love, and his whole family of characters, is that they are characters with the power to rule the world, and instead they serve the world.
Mm-hmm.
And that's very, very important to me when it comes to this stuff. And I gotta be honest with you, when I watched it the first and second time, for some reason I got very like emotional watching it, and I think that something about that symbol on her chest and what she's doing that just brings out that kid in me that wants to see that stuff happening on screen. There are some criticisms laid at its feet, and I was wondering, Nikki, what you thought about the idea that people are saying it looks too silly or that it looks too rom-commy or all of those kind of criticisms laid at its feet.
I think it's all about comparing it to that Black Widow SNL sketch, and you can't compare those two characters. I mean, it's pretty much like comparing Arrow and the Flash. You wouldn't expect Arrow to go through like the really awkward dating phase that Barry's going through. Not in the same way, and like you can't like putting Black Widow in those shoes is comedic because Black Widow is Black Widow. Supergirl is a young woman who, even though I haven't seen her be this awkward and like um soft, like I've never seen this softness with Kara in other incarnations, but it's charming, and it's it's all coming from this whole thing that there's like not enough female characters to have that diversity. Like if we have female superhero characters, there's an expectation for them to be like Black Widow all the time. So with Supergirl, there's more of a, like, you can have femininity in that way and still be Supergirl. So I'm really excited to see that open more doors for more different kinds of super heroines.
Yeah, and I think you're absolutely right. I think that I think characters like Black Widow are obviously very important, but I think, like you said, we've kind of fallen into this trap where, in order for it to seem like an acceptable portrayal of a female superhero, they have to be like hard ass, no femininity, right? They have to, because you even saw in Age of Ultron, right, when she showed a little femininity, people started to get very bristled about it. And I think that this is a good example of being able to show that female characters don't have to be one way or another. It's like there just like male characters, there's a range, right? And I found it very bizarre that people embraced the tone of the Flash so much, and then when
Mm-hmm.
this premiered, seemed to be put off by the fact that basically, if you go back and watch that original Flash promo, you're dealing with a lot of the same things in the Flash promo that you're dealing with in the Supergirl promo. Like, Barry is very awkward when he comes to dating. He can't really talk to girls. He has all this like stuff that he's doing, and it's totally fine. But when you put Kara in it, people are like, it looks too silly, and I don't really get that divide unless people just have it's obviously in some ways I think some underlying sexism in some ways. And I don't think it's the kind that's necessarily malicious, but it's the kind that I think people don't realize they have when you show up with stuff like that. Um, I think that there are definitely a couple awkward moments in the trailer as far as story and acting goes, but again, it's a 6-minute trailer for what seems like the pilot. So shows always go through some growing pains as far as learning and finding their way. And what I think trailers like this are meant to do is to show you kind of the direction the show is going. And I don't want to say that I think that anybody who doesn't think that the trailer looks good is a sexist. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying because there are plenty of people probably just not up their alley, or it just doesn't look good to them, and that there's nothing wrong with that. But I think that when you see some criticisms, there are, I think, some issues the way people kind of break things down in some ways. But I think it looks really cool, and I think that I love that line that the sister says, that she said, the world needs you to fly, is the line. And to me, that's kind of what Superman is all about, and
Mm-hmm.
by extension, the family that he has. Um, I'm wondering too how it's going to fit. I mean, we've heard, right, that it's going to fit into it's part of the Arrow Flash universe. Do you think that they'll address that stuff on Arrow and Flash next year? Like, that there is this girl flying around, this new superhero flying around?
I think it could be like with Ferris Air and them mentioning
Mhm.
the pilot that went missing, and
Mhm.
um, like having, what is it, Gotham in that news story for the Flash, like the
Yeah,
future news story. Like, I think it could work well in the background. Um, I don't know if they're gonna for sure do a crossover anytime soon, but it would be cool. I mean, with Legends of Tomorrow coming out, it could be a perfect opportunity for that bigger world saving thing. Um,
yeah,
what I'm loving most is that the secret identity thing doesn't seem to be an issue, which it bugs me a lot about a lot of the CW shows. Going back to Smallville, like it's always like I can never tell a person close to me because they might get hurt, but it just
Mhm.
kind of seems like everybody knows in the trailer.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's especially good for this stuff because she doesn't really have a disguise, right? There's not like much like Superman. She's just wearing glasses when she's not in the cape. So if they're going no secret identity, I don't really have a huge problem with that as far as the people around her knowing who she is. Um, I don't have a problem. I don't have a problem with secret identity stories per se. Like I don't mind it in like Arrow and stuff like that, and the Flash even. But with stories like this, I think it's tough. And you were saying before about the her kind of awkwardness and her softness. I think they're really going for a Clark Kent type of vibe with her kind of Kara
Hmm.
personality.
Oh,
Um,
she was in the show now. She's 12 when she comes to Earth,
yes,
which is an interesting change because all of the variations that I've seen, she's a teenager and she's headstrong and like she's confident and cocky, and it's just interesting to see that change. And it's not that I don't like it, but it's interesting.
yeah, yeah. No, you're absolutely right. I mean, there's always been this kind of thing with her character, at least in the Kara Zor-El version of the character, not the kind of clone version of the character that existed for a while. Um, that she's very like she's also kind of dangerous in some ways, right? Because she's as powerful, if not more powerful, than Superman. So there, and that plays into the fact, especially in New 52, they play up that fact when she shows up. She's like this confused, I don't know what I'm doing here person, and they've obviously moved away from that at this point. And the other thing too is like what I think the CW show have done very well, especially with Arrow, is that they progress the character over time, where he
Hmm.
is not the same character, and none of them are really the same characters they were when they started. And I think that with the I think Jeff Johns is a very good guiding hand when it comes to this stuff because he knows these characters very, very well. That they may start in one place, but I don't think they end up in that place every time. And I think the same thing will happen with Kara. I think she'll
Hmm.
end up becoming more headstrong, becoming more. I mean, you can even see parts of it though, even though she's slightly nebbish in the trailer. You can see the fact that as the trailer progresses, she might not have the confidence yet, but she has the will, right? She's doing she's doing this stuff even though the people around her are telling her not to do it. So there is a strong will to her character there.
Hmm.
Um, what do you think about the idea of involving kind of the government stuff so quickly and what is obviously the outline for this is how we do a weekly television show, right? Because they have the government organization that has these extraterrestrials that they're looking for. So it builds in kind of that monster of the week type of feeling to it. How do you feel about that incorporation? What it seems like very quickly.
I think it makes sense. I mean, they're adapting this to modern times, and if like Superman has existed or is there, like of course it makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't seen it play out yet, so I can't make a judgment call. Um, but I am so far more interesting in like her personal life supporting cast. Like I'm just more interested in that part of it.
Yeah. Um, and but yeah, I think it looks good. And apparently that the character who asked her out initially, he apparently I don't remember his name right now, ends up being a villain in the Superman universe.
Hmm,
Yeah,
interesting.
he's like the toy maker or something. So I don't know what they're going to do with his character. And obviously we've got the Jimmy
It's gonna be
Olsen.
the nice guy complex.
Yeah, uh, the Jimmy Olsen as well. We have James Olsen. Sorry, I don't want to offend him. Which I think should be an interesting take on that character as more of maybe like a mentor type of character than you know kind of fumbling new guy
The bum,
photographer.
yeah.
Yeah. So that's one of the trailers. The other trailer was Legends of Tomorrow, which is the Arrow Flash spin-off show, um, which will feature Ray Palmer. It will feature Captain Cold, Heatwave, White Canary, um, a Hawk Girl. I think that's it for the major the first starting five. I think of those characters, and Arthur Darvill of Doctor Who fame playing what essentially seems to be like some sort of time cop or something. And this little teaser, which apparently they haven't even shot the pilot yet, so this was all shot, I think, just for this promo. The team coming together to time travel and fight Vandal Savage. Um, Nikki, what did you think of this one?
I wasn't expecting the whole time travel thing like that to be a focus. Um, but it just got me really excited. Like, again, remembering when I was a kid and watching a Justice League Unlimited episode, um, and getting really excited over that. So, um, I'm excited that they're embracing the the scope of what superhero comics can be, um, and expanding it from just like saving one city to like saving like time and space itself.
Yeah, I didn't expect it either. I expected this to be, I guess, more of a anthology type of here's a little story here with these characters, and here's a story here with these characters, and here's a story here with these characters, and it's all kind of happening in the same time and places as Arrow Flash. Just these are like the side stories that happen, and to kind of see what it actually is going to be, I think is very exciting. I think that the time travel aspect is really out there and really cool. I mean, there's some very overt references to, without saying the name, to the Justice League being something that exists in that universe. Um, I think the inclusion of you know kind of Heatwave and Captain Cold, I think, is a very smart thing to do because it adds a you know some friction in the team and some levels to the team that wouldn't exist if it was all just the heroes. Um, I think it's fascinating. They're bringing back Katie Lotz, who plays obviously Sarah Lance, who will be the White Canary in this. Um, it's not a spoiler for Arrow if anybody's because they don't do it on Arrow. So I don't, I thought when they announced it, it was going to be a spoiler for Arrow that she was coming back on that show, but she's not, or at least she hasn't yet. So if it is a spoiler, it's a way in advance spoiler that we don't even
I
know.
think they're gonna do that in the first half of the Arrow season since Legends of Tomorrow is gonna be like a mid-season
Yeah, you think they're going to do
premiere.
that?
Yeah.
Okay. Which you absolutely could be right. But I'm glad she's back. I think that's awesome. She was an awesome character and very good on that show, and so I was sad when she went away. But now that she's back, I think that's great. Um, I'm assuming also we're gonna get introduced to Hawk Girl either on Flash or Arrow before the show premieres because she's totally new to the universe, but pretty awesome that she's gonna be there. Uh, that's a whole new aspect of the DC universe that they're going to be addressing, which I didn't really ever expect them to. The whole past lives, Thangar type of thing, I didn't really expect to see. But it opens it up with the whole kind of aliens thing that's being opened up on Supergirl. So who knows how that's all going to tie together? And I'm just glad that we're gonna have Ray Palmer as a main character in a show for a little while because he's been so great on Arrow, and I didn't want to see that to be like a one season type of deal. Um, what else kind of are there any certain characters you're excited to see, Nikki? in that group? I think I lost Nikki. It seems to have frozen. I'm not sure, but I think Nikki has left me, or I have left Nikki. Something has happened. If people can still hear me, let me know, because I don't know what's going on here. Yep, I think I lost Nikki. She went away, but I think she's coming back. Um, but anyway, I think that it looks like a ton of fun, and it looks like a really interesting addition to that universe. The other part of it all is the Aja Butterfield, Asia. I don't know how to say his name. Is rumored to be in final negotiations to play Peter Parker on the new Spider-Man film for Sony and Marvel. And I I don't know. I have a lot to say about it. I've seen him in Hugo. I don't know his work terribly well, but I am interested to see what it means. He is a very young-looking actor, even though he's 18. So that they're obviously going to go with their idea to make him very, very young and to kind of highlight those differences between him being a 15, 16-year-old kid versus these Avengers are all adults and all well established. So with Nikki gone, I'm going to have a question here. We have a question. Let's see here. From using hashtag Talking Java. Excuse me. This is from Hubert, who is Stimuli File on Twitter. And he says, getting comics signed at cons, proper etiquette, do they charge, item limit, writer versus cover, interior art signature, value of comic. So getting comics signed, there's nothing wrong with it at all. Some of the obviously bigger writers and artists have scheduled signings, and sometimes they put limits on how many comics can get signed. I've seen people walk up with like boxes of comics for people to sign, and I personally think that's overboard. There's a lot of people online. There's a limited amount of time, so I think that's a little bit selfish to do. But I think it's really up to the writer or artist who is signing what they want to do, how long they're willing to be there, and how much work they're willing to do. Or not work, because it's not really work. It's kind of fan interaction they're willing to do. So I think that all depends there. Artist versus cover artist versus interior artist. I mean, I think that if you love somebody's cover and you want them to sign that cover and they're not the interior artist, I think that's totally fine. And the opposite as well. I don't think that there's anything wrong with that. I think the only time it gets weird is if, let's say, the regular artist of a book isn't on this one issue of a book that you have, and you're asking him to sign it anyway. I think that's weird. I know that writers and artists sometimes they get asked to sign things that they didn't work on, which is weird, but I think that's kind of obvious. I think that there's not hard and fast rules. And I think definitely a writer, like being asked to whatever that, I mean, if he wrote the book, that's just equally as it's equal to whoever did the art for the book. So I think you're totally fine on those fronts. But yeah, I mean, I think that's basically it as far as con rules go and structure goes. Just play it by ear. Make sure you're aware of what the artist and writer is feeling, what they want. Ask questions to them. Be respectful to other people online. Don't, if the line is 100 people long and they have an hour to sign, don't make them sign a box of books. But I think being courteous and just being open and being understanding, I think really gets you really far with things like that. And I think that's going to do it, though, for Comics and Coffee. Nikki has left us. I don't know what happened. She probably dropped her connection or something. She is at I am Asian Batgirl on Twitter. My name is Bobby Shortle on Twitter. At Talking Comics is the website, obviously, and you can find us in podcast form on the Talking Comics special edition feed. There are links in the show notes to that. Thank you guys for starting your day out the nerdy way with us, and we will see you next week.